Sarah's hands trembled slightly as she sat in the sterile waiting room, dreading the moment her name would be called. At 34, she had become all too familiar with the cold metal of medical scales and the judgmental looks that often followed. What had started as a routine gynecological appointment was about to become another painful reminder of how drastically her life had changed since her late 20s. It wasn't supposed to be this way. Growing up, Sarah had never worried about weight. She'd been naturally slender with a straight, athletic build that looked good in everything from jeans to formal dresses. She'd taken her fast metabolism and effortless figure for granted, never imagining that her body would one day betray her in such a devastating way. The trouble began with what seemed like minor symptoms: heavier periods, some bloating, occasional pelvic discomfort. But as Sarah entered her late 20s, these issues escalated into something far more serious. Uterine fibroids had begun growing rapidly inside her body, expanding like unwelcome invaders that disrupted everything from her digestive system to her hormonal balance. The first major surgery had been traumatic enough, doctors removing massive growths that had been silently wreaking havoc on her system. Sarah had hoped it would be the end of her ordeal, that she could finally reclaim her body and return to her former self. Instead, it was just the beginning of a medical nightmare that would span years. The fibroids kept returning, each regrowth requiring new interventions, different medications, and increasingly desperate treatment approaches. The hormonal medications meant to control the growths came with brutal side effects: water retention that made her face puffy and unrecognizable, a metabolism that seemed to slow to a crawl despite her best efforts, and weight gain that accumulated despite strict diets and punishing exercise routines. Sarah had tried everything. She'd counted calories obsessively, eliminated entire food groups, spent hours at the gym pushing her already exhausted body to its limits. She'd worked with nutritionists, tried every trending diet plan, and even considered more extreme measures. Nothing worked. The scale continued to climb, and her reflection became a source of daily anguish. The worst part wasn't just the weight gain, it was how differently it distributed on her naturally straight frame. While some women could carry extra pounds with curves that looked feminine and proportionate, Sarah's body type made every additional pound look sloppy and unflattering. She'd gone from feeling confident and comfortable in her skin to avoiding mirrors and hiding behind loose clothing. "Sarah Mitchell?" The nurse's voice cut through her anxious thoughts. Walking into the examination room, Sarah's heart sank as she saw the dreaded scale waiting for her. She'd weighed herself that morning, knew the number would be disappointing, but somehow seeing it displayed digitally in the medical office made it feel more real, more shameful. As the numbers settled on the screen, Sarah couldn't help herself. A long, disgusted "you" escaped her lips, a vocalization of years of frustration, self-loathing, and despair over her body's refusal to cooperate despite her relentless efforts. The nurse's expression immediately shifted, her professional demeanor hardening into something colder. Sarah caught the dirty look, the way the woman's eyes narrowed with what seemed like judgment and disapproval. It was as if Sarah had committed some terrible social transgression rather than expressing disappointment about her own body. As they walked back to the examination room, Sarah's cheeks burned with embarrassment. She hadn't meant to be dramatic or rude, the sound had just slipped out, a reflexive response to seeing a number that represented years of medical struggles and failed attempts at weight loss. But the humiliation wasn't over. While waiting in the examination room, Sarah overheard the nurse at the reception counter, her voice carrying through the thin walls. "That patient has such an attitude about her weight. Really unprofessional behavior." Sarah's stomach dropped. An attitude? She'd made a comment about herself, her own body, her own struggles, her own disappointment. How was expressing frustration about her personal battle with weight considered having an attitude toward anyone else? Later, during the appointment, the doctor handed Sarah a depression screening questionnaire, explaining it was due to concerns about body image and potential eating disorder risks. Sarah stared at the paper in confusion. This was the same medical office that routinely told her she needed to lose weight, that recommended stricter diets and more exercise despite her already extreme efforts. The irony was devastating and maddening. When Sarah agreed with their assessment, when she showed that she, too, was concerned about her weight, suddenly she was at risk for eating disorders. When she expressed the same disappointment about her body that they regularly voiced in their recommendations, it became a mental health concern worthy of early screening. Sarah felt trapped in an impossible situation. The medical professionals wanted her to lose weight but seemed disturbed when she demonstrated that she cared about losing weight. They recommended dietary changes and exercise, but when she showed frustration at her lack of results despite following their advice, she was labeled as having an attitude problem. Driving home that evening, Sarah wondered if she was losing her mind. Was expressing disappointment about her own body really so inappropriate? Was she supposed to smile and nod cheerfully at a weight that represented years of medical trauma and failed efforts? How could the same people who told her to lose weight then act concerned when she clearly wanted to lose weight? What do you think about Sarah's situation? Was she wrong to express frustration about her own weight at a medical appointment? Or was the nurse overreacting? How would you handle being caught between medical advice to lose weight and criticism for caring too much about losing weight? Share your thoughts and feelings below. This struggle with body image and medical judgment affects so many people dealing with health-related weight gain.